The last of our 6 core principles with the green light hitting system is what we call impulse flexibility. And quite frankly, this might be one of the hardest to comprehend, to train. But essentially, it is what separates those great hitters. Because they've mastered all these other 5. They have the ability to do it, but this impulse flexibility is such a high-level skill. And essentially what an impulse is it's a force-time product. How much force can I apply, and through what time period can I apply it? Force times time. And flexibility, of course, is, how varying can you be? I mean, are you very specific in when this is applied, or do you have the ability to apply this impulse at a different period?
As needed. How does that apply to hitting?
Well, at some point, pitchers become less predictable. Okay, so, when you're young, 1-0 count generally means fastball. 3-1 count.
When you're really young, always.
Yeah, when you're really young, it's always a fastball. But as these curveballs and these changeups and these splits become more and more prominent for a hitter, this ability to be flexible with when your swing actually begins is extremely crucial. Now, having said that, these really good pitchers still throw 90, 95, 98, as crazy as it sounds.
When you say flexible, what?
So the ball comes out of the pitcher's hand, and at different times along the way to the catcher's glove, you have to apply that force. When you identify a fastball, you'd like that force, that impulse, to be applied as soon as possible. But when you recognize curveball or changeup, you would like that force to be applied later. So assuming you recognize the pitch, assuming that you see it and you identify it, you always have to be prepared to apply that force, that impulse, as soon as possible. You always have to be prepared for that fastball. But you need to be able to adjust or allow that ball to get deeper before you apply those off-speed pitches. Well, impulse flexibility says when the front heel lands, if we're always creating that impulse, if we're always driving right at the same moment that heel lands, we're not going to have an opportunity to hit those off-speed pitches. So essentially, impulse flexibility is how can we adjust our swing with that lead knee? Does it always brace at the same time, or does it allow a little bit of give once I recognize that ball? This is that flexibility, and as I'm giving, that ball's gaining ground on me, and when I recognize that it's in a hittable position, then I create that impulse to drive the ball. Okay, so impulse flexibility, and when pitchers throw backwards and they become very unpredictable,
without it,
you're done. I mean, without it, you're done. And look, it's challenging. And this, I was there. You get that 2-0 curveball from a guy that you just don't think you're going to get it. And baseball's never going to change. I mean, pitchers are always going to have the advantage. I'm not saying that a 2-0 curveball is going to be a hitter's pitch. But it might be if you have flexibility and you recognize it, and that ball's just sitting there, and you can push back on time. But some hitters, when they get that 2-0 curveball, because they apply that force so quick, they're basically stuck. And when they're stuck, they can't swing. So the ability to be flexible with your lower half allows you to let the ball get in. It allows you to be quick to the ball. So this flexibility is the impulse flexibility is more about contending with a pitcher's depth, right? Can he throw the fastball and get on me quick? Can he throw the off speeds with which I have to wait on? Whereas the previous one, that adjustability is more about moving it laterally, the impulse.
And I assume that you have drills for all this. What kind of levels are you talking when you're talking impulse flexibility?
Impulse flexibility, we're talking like
the highest.
The highest, yeah. I mean, you can start to train impulse flexibility as early as level 11. That's when you start to see the curveball. But it truly doesn't begin to apply itself until the higher levels. When I say higher levels, I mean like level 14, level 15, level 16. In there, when those pitchers do become so darn unpredictable. I'll also say this. The impulse flexibility and the challenge that it presents is why players switch hit. Because as balls move away from you, they're hard to hit. When you switch hit and balls move into you, you don't have to be as flexible. It is the primary reason why players want to switch hit. And maybe it hasn't been worded like that, but when balls break into you, you don't have to be as flexible as when they break away from you. So that last core principle is the impetus behind switch hitting.